Well, I suppose the customers will be breathing a sigh of relief. They're not having to stump up the 750 million.
Yeah, a little bit of good news here. We were reporting last week that Thames Water could even be nationalised. It was privatised, of course, in 1989. It's the biggest water company in the UK. It covers 27% of all households, from Gloucestershire right the way over to Kent in the southeast. It's got a problem, not just from those sewage fines, which are, small-digit millions. Of course, they
3.3 of the last,
big environmental consequences, lots of fish dying and so on. But the real problem is this debt pile that Thames Water's got. It's very heavily indebted. It owes £14 billion, £14,000 million. The shareholders are literally the likes of the government of UAE, the government of China, Canadian pension funds, our own university's pension fund. They were being pressured to put more money in. Thames Water wanted £1 billion. They've got 750 million, and that's why Thames Water are saying they will need more money going forward to meet these environmental fines and indeed try and fulfil the government's net zero targets.
So how have they raised the money?
They've raised the money because shareholders put money in. It's called a cash call, and that means that the shareholders protect the amount of the company that they own. But look, the government says it's standing by to nationalise this company if it needs it. Obviously, the shareholders don't want that because they'd lose their investments. But the shareholders are insisting they have got enough money to go forward.
And do we know how much of that is to pay off the debt and servicing the debt rather than make improvements to the water system and keep things going properly?
It depends what happens on interest rates. About half of Thames Water's £14 billion debt pile is what we call index linked. So it's linked to inflation. As inflation goes up, they have to pay more in debt service. So it may be that a lot of that 750 million quid big money goes on debt service. But look, ministers are insisting, this is what really, where the rubber hits the road, ministers are insisting none of this kind of financial instability won't affect our bills at all. Don't worry about it. I don't buy that. I mean, the water companies across the piece have already been saying they're looking at putting bills up by about 30 to 40% next year. So the average water bill across the UK for a year is about £450
That's going to really
household.
stick in people's craw, isn't it, if you're a Thames Water customer?
And it will go up to another, from about £450 to about £650.
Yeah.
It's a significant increase. That's already baked in, and that's, again, to meet these sewage
And
fines.
still questions about the structuring at Yorkshire, Portsmouth Water, Southern Water to an extent, South East Water, across the board.
Look, the Conservative government is going through sort of ideological palpitations. Is it a high-tax party? Is it a low-tax party? Is it a party that wants more privatisation?
More regulation.
More nationalisation? Yeah. It doesn't really know. And against the backdrop of that kind of ideological doubt, Thames Water doesn't really know where it stands. But for now, at least, these big shareholders, these big pension funds, these overseas governments, they have agreed to put more money in to at least shelve for a while the threat of nationalisation. So I do think water bills are going to go up. Water companies have been saying that anyway. And I do think at least part of the reason those bills are going up is to pay for these sewage leaks and also to pay for the higher interest costs, as interest rates and inflation go up, of companies like Thames Water servicing their huge debt pile.